All right, I'm sending out a tweet.
Yep. Hello, everyone. Hopefully, you can hear us and see us. Sorry for the late start. For some reason, my app wasn't streaming audio, so I had to quickly fix that. But it's all fixed now, and we should be ready to go once I put Do Not Disturb mode on. There we go. And when Dan's ready.
Yep, just a sec.
Hope everybody's had a good week.
Uh, is my thread threading? I don't know. All right, let me mute that. Yeah, it's fine on power. Do, 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 do. All right. I am now recording.
I am now recording.
3, 2, 1, clap. Hey everyone, welcome to Windows Central Podcast, episode 324 for September 8th, 2023. Hey everyone, Dean Rubino joined here with Zach Bowden for another semi-exciting Windows Central podcast. We are coming out of summer, headed into back to school season. Things are going to start picking up. I can promise you that. Some really interesting stuff coming up in the coming weeks. But right now, not so much, but we do have some news for you, including the Windows 11 2023 update review by Zach. So this is also known as 23H2. We don't know what Microsoft is going to call it. We're just calling it the Windows 11 2023 update because, well, that makes a lot of sense. Microsoft Paint gets some sweet AI. So yeah, Microsoft is adding AI to Microsoft Paint, which is kind of funny. It's like putting, I don't know, a V8 into a little Yugo car. It's just like, wow, Paint. All right. But we love Paint here. So that's going to be awesome. We'll tell you what that means and probably when you're going to get it. WordPad, Microsoft WordPad is dead. This story made me kind of upset, but we'll go through it and why. You know, I understand I'm in the minority here. Microsoft remembers the Surface Duo exists, which is kind of funny, but we'll talk about that and why we're saying that. Rumors are Microsoft Apple is going to release a low-cost MacBook, so we'll kind of break down that rumor as well as talk about the upcoming possible issues Apple will have with the iPhone. This is kind of breaking news that's been happening, and we'll put that into context. We'll also go through our latest reviews. We had quite a few go up this week, actually, including the Razer Blade 14 2023 Mercury Edition. It's the right ones to get because it's well, it doesn't get a lot of fingerprints. We also have a couple monitor reviews and stuff to talk through, but we'll get through that. Anyway, Zach, how are you doing on this fine Friday?
I am not too bad. The week started off a little bit rough for me. I was very sick, probably from Germany, which was you can already hear it in my voice. It keeps coming and going. But yeah, got really sick. I'm almost out of it now, but still a little bit off this week. How are you?
I'm fine. Yeah, we should. As some of you might have heard, COVID is going around again
Yeah.
because it's, why not? It's been a couple months, right? So I believe 3 people on our team were sick with it this week. And it hit them all pretty hard. So yeah, be careful out there. Although we say be careful, I don't know what you can do. I sat next to someone who um, was basically came down with COVID. They were diagnosed with it like the day after they tested positive.
Yeah.
Sat next to them at dinner for 90 minutes at least and talked face to face, inches from inches. Like, and it was funny too because I told Zach this because the gentleman was wearing an Omega wristwatch. I was just like, "Is that the Omega Moon watch?" He's like, "Why, yes, it is." I'm like, "Nice." So we talked about watches. I'm telling you, as I keep joking about this, but as you get older as a gentleman, if you know your wristwatches and you run into someone else who's higher up than you on the pecking order or in terms of your job or in your career, and they wear a fancy wristwatch, if you know to talk about watches, that's a great in for conversations with people. And people watch nerds love fellow watch nerds. I'll just say that. But it works. I'm telling you, it works. But anyway, I didn't get COVID, which was good because that was right before I was going to go to Malaysia. And I ended
Right.
up testing for the next week, make sure I didn't have it before I traveled. But who knows how you get that stuff? Anyway, let's go to some of the news this week. We got a lot to kind of get through here. So, Zach, you reviewed the Windows 11 2023 update, also known as 23H2. Now, to be clear, this is not out yet. This doesn't come out to what we suspect will be October, the usual time frame. But why did you review it now, and how was your review?
So the reason I reviewed it now is because the way Windows is developed these days kind of allows us to start doing that ahead of time. Microsoft, with its different tiered or channels in the Insider program, right now you can sort of look at it as a trickle down from the dev channel. So whatever's in the dev channel is sort of in active development. The beta channel is them shaping the next release, and the release preview channel, of course, is the next release being tested a couple of weeks in advance. That said, there's still a runway period where the base channel will be basically feature complete, and I'm pretty sure we're at that point, or we have been at that point over the last few weeks. So we've been able to take a look at all the features that will be in the next release when it ships on whatever day that may be. Could be Patch Tuesday in October, could be Week D, late September. We don't really know when it's going to start running out exactly. We just know it's going to be in the next few weeks. But the feature set that's currently in the base channel is almost certainly that for what's going to ship. There may be one or two minor differences here and there, but the bulk of the update, the main sort of takeaways from what it introduces are more or less finalized and in the builds at this point. So that gives us the opportunity to begin reviewing it ahead of time. Obviously, I've been running the beta builds for months now at this point, so I'm very familiar with all the features that have been rolling out in the Insider program and seeing Microsoft shape this release for the public next month. And so, yeah, I was able to review it, and my takeaways are kind of interesting. This is a much bigger update than I think a lot of us were thinking it was going to be, considering it's an enablement package update, but that doesn't matter anymore. Enablement package updates can be major updates with lots of notable features in it, which is what the 23H2 or the 2023 update release is looking to be. So obviously the top stuff in this release, for me at least, are the Windows Copilot stuff, which is just the start. Windows Copilot, as it currently is right now, is in preview, and I believe it will remain in preview until probably Windows V next. But that's certainly a product that's going on a journey. What we're seeing today is just the start. It's the foundation for what will be a much more capable assistant through the likes of third-party plugins. Third-party plugins will be the lifeblood of the Windows Copilot, and it will be what makes it useful. As of right now, of course, we've not been able to test any third-party plugins, but I believe that will be a topic that Microsoft talks about on September 21st. But for now, the Windows Copilot is an okay idea. I'm not too keen on the implementation of it. I'm a little bit disappointed that it's an Edge feature masquerading as a Windows feature. We've discussed that before. So the performance isn't all that great. It's a little bit slow. Of course, it relies on the internet to handle even local commands, which isn't very good. But it is certainly much more intelligent than Cortana was. If Cortana, the Windows Copilot is essentially a replacement for Cortana, and if you were to ask Cortana a series of questions, sometimes it would lose its thread, or it can only answer one question at a time, and it can only do a basic web search to get you that answer, whereas obviously with the large language models and Bing Chat, we already know that that's a much more complex capability there. It's able to handle multiple search queries, it can do creative tasks, no problem, and the additional Windows stuff, as I mentioned, is very basic right now. The ability to change your theme or turn on Do Not Disturb, that's currently there in preview, but like I said, that sort of stuff will expand with the inclusion of third-party plugins. And now, calling them third-party, Microsoft will use this platform as well, so it won't just be third-party. There'll be first-party Microsoft plugins also that enhance Windows. So, for example, say the Office team could hook into the Windows Copilot with its own plugins, or the OneDrive team could do it, or Windows File Explorer team could hook into the Copilot. That's stuff we're going to see, and that's when the Copilot really becomes powerful and unique. But we're not there yet, so I would say stick a pin in it for the Windows Copilot stuff, and we'll get back to its proper sort of capabilities at a later date. But the first implementation there, I think, is okay, and it does show promise. Then we've also got things like the new File Explorer, which is a redesigned sort of interface with a much more modern homepage, details panel, which is on their sort of journey of making the File Explorer app a modern Windows UI. Obviously, with Windows 10 and previous versions of Windows, the File Explorer was always this legacy thing that Microsoft sort of left alone. And there was at some point there was a plan to replace it with a UWP app, which never came to be. So now they're sort of slowly but surely just making parts of it more modern. And it's still not perfect in this release, but it's certainly taken another step forward. Like I said, with the modern details pane, which also hooks into Microsoft 365, so you can see recent activity on shared files. If you're using that for work, that's pretty handy. So you can see colleagues, if they've made any edits, it will tell you when they made the edits, what edits they made, as well as any comments left, because lots of companies will use the commenting system in Office to leave notes for other people to come back to and make changes at a later date. That now is all surfaced in the details pane in File Explorer. The homepage itself, like I said, is now modern as well. Also has a richer recommended sort of UI along the top for those using Windows with an Azure ID. And then the actual UI along the top has been redesigned as well. It looks much more like a web browser. So we've got the tabs along the top, we have the address bar with our navigation buttons, and then below that we have our command button. So it's all still there, it's all still one click away, but things have just been moved around. I think it looks a lot nicer in this release for sure. The address bar is now much more rich as well. It has the ability to back up folders with a button in the actual address bar itself, which is nice to see as well. The only parts of it that still haven't been updated are the copy dialog, file properties, and the navigation bar on the left. For some reason, they decided not to update that. Maybe that's something they're going to get around to in the next version. But we are one step closer, as I mentioned, to the File Explorer being an entirely modern experience. But we're still not there yet. It's still sort of inconsistent when it comes to dark mode, especially. If you use dark mode windows, you'll know the copy dialog and file properties are still blisteringly white and will burn your retinas if you're looking at them late at night. That has not been addressed with this release, but hopefully we get around to that at some point in the future. There's also the new archive format, so we can now handle 7-zips and RARs and tar files directly in box using the File Explorer. You no longer need to download a third-party program. So far, you can only use those to unpack the files. Packing them is, to my knowledge, coming later. That might be coming in an early moment for 2024. But that is on the way. And there's also a new gallery feature, which is essentially just a way to bring in all of the photos across your OneDrive and different directories on your PC into one place. So instead of having to manually go to the different folders, you can tell the gallery, hey, I have folders over here, here, there, and here. Just show me all of them, and it will do that. And it'll give you a nice timeline as well if you've got the photos dated correctly. Dan, so far, what are you liking the sound of these improvements?
Well, they're all little minor things. Hopefully I'll notice them in my day-to-day use.
Yeah.
File Explorer, it's like, obviously I use File Explorer often like most people, but I also don't notice a lot. So I don't think I've ever used tabs yet in File Explorer.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't think I have either. I don't need to.
Yeah, like I'm just in the habit, I'll open another instance of File Explorer.
Yeah.
And mostly because then I can kind of do side by side with them. But I always forget it's there. Literally never use it, though. I know some people are just probably pretty happy, but I just maybe need to break into that habit. As far as the AI stuff, we talked extensively about that. It's a work in progress. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's not that exciting right now. But in the future, 2024, as they start to roll this stuff out. Also, as we figure out what we're going to use AI for,
Yeah.
The kind of the story going around right now is things like Bing Chats and ChatGPT and these large language models, that the interest has kind of waned with them. They're still being used by people, but it's just not as like, I still use it once in a while when I'll look up a question. I think the big thing with Microsoft's Bing Chat for me right now is the speed. I feel like sometimes I could just do a search and get the information quicker that way. Mm-hmm. Versus you type in that chat and then it's like you're waiting. It's not so bad if you're on a desktop. It's worse when you're mobile because you're just kind of like, come on.
Yeah, it's funny as well because the way the UI works is it types it out for you, so you can see it typing as it's generating rather than just pasting a block of text at you, which I would prefer, I think, because I sort of skim the text as it's coming out, so I'm like ahead of it. I'm like, come on, I'm reading ahead of you. Can you type faster, please? That's annoying. Yeah. But they do it that way because obviously it's generating the text as it puts it in front of you. It's not. It could, I guess, hide it and then just paste the entire thing once it was done generating, but I think that would make it feel slower because you'd be waiting longer for that text to be generated invisibly. So they start printing it out in front of you as soon as they can. But as a result of that, if you're a fast reader like me, it's like, come on, type faster, please type faster. It's kind of gets annoying. But you're totally right. There's definitely the Windows, especially the Windows side of things, will improve with the third-party plugins. Like I said, I'm pretty sure that's going to be a big topic at the September 21st event happening in a couple of weeks. The fact that companies like Adobe or Spotify will be able to build a plugin, and you can then use the assistant to interact with those apps to do additional things that you couldn't normally do. So that's going to be pretty exciting. So if we move on to a couple of other sort of modes, we won't go for everything here because there's a lot of, as Dan mentioned, minor quality of life stuff. But the taskbar has been updated once again. You can now show app labels, which is a classic taskbar feature that was removed with the initial launch of Windows 11, but has now been restored. The Microsoft Store now has a bunch of AI stuff in it as well, so you can now generate review summaries, which I think is a really handy and cool idea. So whenever you're looking at an app an app's page or a movie page, and you want to look at reviews, instead of having to manually read every individual review now to get a sort of sense of how good or bad the product is, you can ask the Microsoft Store to generate a review summary. So the AI will take a look at all of those reviews and say, hey, based on X amount of reviews, most people say this product is this good or this bad, and here are some reasons why. That's great. I think that's an excellent example of AI being useful. So I'm hoping to see more of that with Windows V next, but that's a good start for the Microsoft Store. There's also a new AI hub in the Microsoft Store. Again, this will all tie back to the September 21st event, where Microsoft has a dedicated homepage for third-party app developers to have their AI-driven or AI-powered apps advertised, essentially. So you'll see things like Photoshop in here or Lumina Neo. Lots of them are in there already, and and I'm sure some of them will eventually even tap into NPU hardware and whatnot to be even more useful. One feature that hasn't been put into testing yet that we know is coming is a version of the widgets board that takes away MSN.com. So you'll be able to have just widgets on there. Again, like I said, this has been announced, but they've not put it into testing yet, so we do know it's coming. There's not much to really review about it. It's just, hey, you'll be able to disable the news feed. But that's something I'm personally looking forward to because I don't rarely read the news in the widgets board anyway. Settings has a new homepage, as well as a bunch of new personalization settings, such as dynamic lighting, which is the ability to control RGB peripherals in box without having to download a third-party client, which is always nice to see. And there's also the ability to ink directly into text boxes now, just like iPadOS and on some Android devices. Now, actually, to my knowledge, this was just removed from the base channel, but I do think this will be shipping in 23H2. If not immediately, it will be coming in an update shortly after. So I'm going to keep it in the review for now. And then lastly, this is, I think, as Dan, you'll like this feature as well. This is going to help us reviewers big time. Windows Cloud Backup and Restore. Microsoft has finally built in a competent cloud backup and restore solution into Windows 11. There's an app now in the start menu when you boot up 23H2, which will allow you to create a backup of your current PC, and it will save all of that to the cloud. It will save things like folders, apps, settings, and credentials, and that credentials includes, to my knowledge, browser passwords from Edge and I think Chrome. And it will even save things like Wi-Fi information, so your Wi-Fi passwords and known networks and stuff. Then you can restore that backup when you set up a new PC. There's a new sort of page in the out-of-box experience where it will say, hey, you last backed up this PC. Would you like to restore it? And it will pull in all of your apps, settings, and credentials and all that other stuff. And it's fantastic. It even works with apps that aren't in the Microsoft Store. So what it will do is it'll pull in, it will remember where you pinned everything in the start menu stuff, and it will just sort of be grayed out. And if you click on it, if it's not in the Microsoft Store, it will open up a browser and take you to where it thinks you would be able to find the app executable, which is great. And if it is in the Microsoft Store, it should automatically download in the background as you hit the desktop. Love to see it. That's going to be great for us reviewers who are constantly moving between different PCs. Instead of having to manually set up a new PC every time now, just restore from a backup. Windows will download all the apps you had. Good stuff, I think. So overall, I'm really liking this update. The 23H2 release, like I mentioned, is a much more significant update than I thought it was going to be. Originally I thought there was only going to be the AI Copilot thing and that's about it. But really, it's the start of Microsoft's AI push. If we take a look at all of the sort of AI enhancements being added to this release, it really is laying the foundation for what's coming next. We have AI file recommendations in Start and File Explorer. We of course have the Windows Copilot. We have the AI Hub in the Microsoft Store. We have AI review summaries in the Microsoft Store. We also have Smart Snap Assist, which is coming later, but that's the ability for Windows Snap Assist to use AI, I guess, to snap. It recognizes snap. You snapped. It goes, hey, you normally snap these other two apps next to it. We can do that for you automatically. That's a feature that's coming as well. already announced by Microsoft. And then you've also got the other stuff like Paint is getting AI, Photos is getting AI, Snipping Tool is getting AI. That stuff isn't here yet, but that will be coming in the next couple of weeks/months. This really is the start of Microsoft's push to bring AI to Windows, turning Windows into an AI-driven OS, an AI-driven platform. And yeah, I'm really excited to see where it goes from here because, like I said, this is just the start. This is the beginning of it. This isn't the goal. This isn't the end goal. This is very much them beginning the journey to bring AI to Windows. Dan, what are your thoughts overall?
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't have a ton of complaints with Windows 11. You mentioned the widgets thing, right? That is kind of, I think, important because I actually like MSN News. I do read it every day. I mentioned that before, that it's like my time killer. I read a lot of pop culture stuff. It's also just interesting to watch trends, but I always use it because I'm always in the web browser and it's my new page. And that's where I tend to read this stuff. But I never use it in widgets. And so I'd probably remove it there.
Yeah.
And just use it as a widgets thing. I still have sort of, I don't know. I think as Microsoft presumably moves to back again to sort of tablet form factor devices, and foldable displays and this kind of stuff, I think having the widgets panel is going to be a lot more useful.
Yeah.
On a desktop, I don't ever really use it, mostly because I'm also on a giant, I don't know what size screen this is, 32-inch display. And it's like it's way over there in the corner. We talked about that also previously.
Yeah.
I prefer to have that, next to the search bar. I think that would be more useful for me. I'd probably click it more often.
Right.
So I think they still can do improvements there. I don't have issues with stability, and I don't have a ton of other complaints. Actually, my other big complaint, which still isn't addressed here, of course, is notifications popping into the lower right-hand corner.
Yeah.
Like ideally, I would like customization there. So you can have the notification, I guess, come up in any corner that you prefer. I want it more like, I prefer upper right-hand corner. Obviously, it'd be weird to follow the smartphone model now and just have it drop down from the top. That would be actually kind of strange. But the reason I do that is because I snap a lot of stuff on my desktop, and whether it's Slack, Telegram, WhatsApp, anything that has messaging in a dialog box, it's always in the lower right-hand corner.
That's right.
And so I'll be typing something, like a long message, and then a notification pops in and just cuts me right off.
Yep.
It's like, what the hell? And it's just like, now I got to go either wait for that to dismiss, or I got to go exit and then go back into my thing. It's just really frustrating when your job is to basically manage and message people all day. And so if it was in the top corner, still technically you'd run into, if you're about to resize your window or close your window, it might interfere. Although they could fix that by not having it, pixel per pixel in that right corner, right? It could be like, 30 pixels down. And so you would still, it wouldn't block
this
is
what Microsoft should be using AI to fix. They should be like, AI should be able to determine if you're active in that corner and not show a notification until you're no longer active there. Like, come on, this is what Windows 12 needs to be. It needs to be an AI infused OS that's smart.
Yeah. If Microsoft can give me notifications that are like 20 pixels below the top of the screen in the upper right hand corner, I'd be actually really, really happy. That's all I really want. I think it's visually better too. The way your eyes work, you're more likely to look up in the upper right hand corner than the lower corner. Your eyes don't go down when you're like staring at a computer.
We've seen the Windows 12 concepts. Like, they do have a thing along the top now in those concepts. So maybe they are planning to move the notifications up, which, I think you're right. I think that ergonomically makes more sense for sure.
A lot of times when notifications come in, because they're not really in my peripheral view, I just kind of ignore them. But if they're up higher, I would actually probably read them more often too. Again, that could be just anecdotal nonsense for me, but you could test this very easily. You just put someone in front of a computer, like 10 people, and use eye tracking software and see where their eyes go when they're using a computer, and see how they then ask them for feedback on that. It's really simple to test. But anyway, I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited. I haven't put any of these. I have a release preview on all my computers. But if you are on release preview, you tend to get the App Store updates quicker. So
That's
my
right.
Microsoft Store actually does have the AI hub already in it. And it's
Yeah.
pretty nice. I haven't gone there very often, but it is a quick way to, yeah, find notes that, like there's Trip Notes, Spark Mail, email app by Riedel. Riedel? I have no idea what this is and how it uses AI. Let's see. Spark brings the best email experience for professionals and their teams, syncing multiple email accounts in one inbox across Android, Apple, and Windows devices. Interesting. With Spark for desktop, you can easily overcome the challenges of communication overload, whether working in an office, remotely, or hybrid. You can finally triumph over constant context switching and distractions. Spark empowers you with the new features, blah, blah, blah. How this has AI? Let's see.
That's a good point. How is it AI driven?
I
I'm
well, I
saying,
imagine it's probably, oh, here it is. Supercharge your email productivity with Spark plus AI. Use an AI-powered email writing assistant that helps you craft perfect emails fast, rephrase, proofread, adjust tone, and more. That's kind of interesting. I
see,
was hoping it would maybe use something in like to order your inbox.
yes, I was going to say that's the one thing. All these email services have been like, hey, we've got AI that can write emails for you. I don't really want that. I want an AI that can sort my inbox into what I should absolutely be replying to, what I can probably ignore, and things that might interest me. I want AI to be doing that. I don't want AI to be writing the
Like,
emails for me.
yeah, they do, of course, nothing's free. So the app itself is free, but as you would expect, it has a
Yeah.
premium plans and subscriptions. So individual subscription is, which is equivalent to $5 a month or $8 a month.
Right.
Uh, that's not terrible if your job is to rely on email. It does have, interestingly enough, and I know we're on a tangent here, but this is kind of cool. It has a 4.6 rating out of 150
I think Spark Mail is
reviews.
pretty popular, yeah, on Android and iOS. I'm not surprised by that, seeing it
Yeah,
in the Microsoft Store.
I'm gonna hit download on this, and yeah, since it's on Android and iOS,
Yeah.
the question is, this is where I bet it's going to fail for me. And it won't be a big fail. I bet on the Fold 5, which I'm still using, and I still got to write about. Uh, I bet on the Fold 5 it probably doesn't do anything special in
Hmm.
terms of putting the inbox on one side and the message.
Well,
And because
yeah,
Outlook does do that.
it does.
Gmail does it if you rotate the phone, which is freaking stupid. I've ranted about that before. But I'll be curious if Spark Mail. But anyways, yeah. So that was a tangent about the Microsoft Store AI. But it obviously, as a just live example, gives you an opportunity to discover these apps that will eventually become more and more popular, especially in 2024, and NPUs become more pro,
Yeah.
available, I guess.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So yeah, that's the 23H2 review. I guess the only other downside that I want to briefly mention, I mentioned the fact that the AI system is still pretty basic. That's expected to improve. Dark mode is still quite inconsistent, bit annoying, but whatever. File Explorer itself, with the new stuff, has taken a bit of a step back in performance. It's not drastic, but it is noticeable. It's like, oh yeah, you're waiting a beat or two for things to load, especially when you boot it from cold. There's a few beats where it's loading up, and also at least currently this will probably be fixed by the time the update rolls out, but it'll flashbang you if you're using dark mode. You'll get a quick white screen before it loads into the black interface or the dark interface, and then clicking through directories takes a beat every time. I don't know why. There's apparently, it was going around on Twitter where if you hit F11 once or twice, that will fixes it, and so everything's instant again. I don't know why that fixes it. Microsoft is aware though, to my knowledge, and so like I said, that this stuff should be fixed in due course. But yes, that is the 23 H2 review, also known as the 2023 updates. We should now move on to some other Windows topics before we get on to other stuff. Paint AI, or air quotes AI, machine learning, depending on how you want to decipher it. Microsoft has introduced the ability to automatically remove backgrounds from images in Paint. So this is I would consider kind of advanced feature for Paint. You know, Paint up until recently was very just basically a basic doodle app. You would use it to doodle if you've got children, you give them your PC and they'd open Paint and they'd draw like a rainbow or something. That's kind of what it was for. Then of course over the years you've had like people who actually use Paint to do real art in it, and it's kind of amazing that they can even do it in Paint. But with Windows 11, Microsoft has given Paint a new look of Paint. They've given it a new interface stuff. It's got dark mode now. It now has a center canvas. We talked a few weeks ago that we talked. Well, we talked about it on the podcast. Microsoft has been considering bringing AI to Paint in the form of being able to generate images using things like DALL-E technology, the same stuff that Bing Image Creator uses. That integration coming to Paint, so you'll be able to generate images within Paint and then annotate on top of them or draw and add to them, etc., etc. That is something they've been considering. But one thing that does appear to be shipping now is the ability to remove backgrounds from images. So you could call this AI. Microsoft seemingly doesn't in its announcement post. They just referred to it as a feature that you can now use. I'm guessing there's a reason for that. I'm sure there's maybe a internal terminology as to what should be called AI and what isn't. And this machine learning is not considered AI according to Microsoft. So it is using machine learning, and it will analyze the image and say, hey, there's a face or there's an object, everything behind it, get rid of it. And I tested it briefly on a random selfie I took. It wasn't a great selfie, wasn't a very high quality camera, and it did a very good job. I think if you've been paying for an app to do this, don't pay for it anymore. Just use Paint because it can do that, and it does it very well. It does it very quickly as well. It's really nice. So well done, Microsoft, for adding background removal to Paint. And then we move on to the sad news of the week, WordPad. Now, it's funny because I feel like we talked about WordPad a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about how, I'm pretty sure Dan said, why don't they update WordPad? And then 2 weeks later, someone was listening at Microsoft and went, oh yeah, we should kill WordPad.
Oh yeah, you want us to update it? Here we go. It's dead. We're killing it.
So they announced on some Microsoft documentation that WordPad is being deprecated. Part of the Windows deprecation list, they added it on September 1st. And that means at some point in the future, it will be removed from the Windows product. And it also means from now on, there will be no further updates to the app in regards to new features or fixes and stuff like that. There might be security bugs that they still fix while it's in the products, but it's the end of the road for WordPad. And it's sad news because you're right. Microsoft has been giving a lot of the inbox apps love with Windows 11 and going into Windows 12 now. And WordPad suspiciously was never touched, and it was starting to look a bit worrying that they weren't going to give it any more love, and as expected, they're now actually going to take it away from us at some point. Dan, what are your thoughts?
It'll be available in the store.
I don't think so. I don't think that's what they're going to do with it. I think that's
what they've done so far with deprecated apps, wasn't it? Wasn't that the plan?
I don't think they're going to do it with WordPad. I think they're killing WordPad. I think it's going.
So mean.
What do you use WordPad for? Why are you sad about this?
I use it for just like notes and just typing out things. And I use it probably how most people use Notepad.
Right.
But I don't like Notepad because I just don't feel like there's enough tools in it. It's just like it's so barren that I like WordPad because you can do bullet points and bold, and you can just, I don't know, it's literally in between Word and Notepad. It's WordPad.
Yeah.
It's the best of both worlds, in my opinion. I don't know. I just like it. I feel like they could have done a lot more with it.
Yeah.
But,
no, I do. I think
I'll concede. Probably most people are using just Notepad or Word. I'm probably in the minority here. But.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I do like the idea of WordPad because I do think Windows needs a built-in free editing or viewer at least for Word documents. Because right now Windows uses WordPad for that. If you open a doc file without Office installed, it will use WordPad because WordPad can view those doc files, and I think it can make basic edits as well to them. Maybe that's a money pit for Microsoft. I don't know, but there's a free version of Word Online, and Microsoft does even say if you want to keep using similar functionality, use Word Online because Word Online is free. You don't have to pay for it. And so, you're right. I think it is a shame, but I think what this really is Microsoft trying to streamline what is and isn't in the product.
Listen. Yeah, and it makes sense. Like they have basically 3 text editors of
exactly.
Windows, right? Someone's asking like, why don't I use Word? Oh, I use Word all the time. I use Word when I sit down and write like a major article or a piece or something like that. But I use WordPad just for a little everyday things. But I will say, you got 3 text editors. They can't all be used equally. So which one's used the least? And it's probably WordPad by a significant margin. And it doesn't make sense. We've seen this over the years, thankfully, Microsoft reducing redundancies in the Windows operating system with the inbox apps, which I think is absolutely necessary because it's just a little overwhelming. If you're new to Windows, which I don't know how many people really are these days, but, and you had like Word, WordPad, and Notepad, you'd be like, what? What's the difference, right?
Yeah.
I don't even think most people know. So it's a good decision. I'm just sore because it is something I use every day. On the other hand, listen, Microsoft Paint, God bless them. Like I use that all the time too. So
Yeah.
I'm not only am I happy that it's sticking around, but them pumping in AI to it so it can like you can do background stuff and remove things. That's awesome. Like yeah, that's a bring MS Paint, embrace it. It's
Yeah.
a great app.
You know,
I use it all the time.
it's funny. There was a dark time where Microsoft Paint was being killed off. If you remember, Paint 3D was supposed
3D
to
Paint.
be, was supposed to be the replacement, and they were going to remove Microsoft Paint from Windows and essentially deprecate it. There was so much backlash to that they reversed course, and Paint 3D got the axe, and old Paint got a big update, and now look at it now. It's absolutely thriving. Because I think throughout the entirety of Windows 10, it wasn't touched, Microsoft Paint. It
Yep.
was that was the Windows 8 or even Windows 7 app, to be honest.
It's these tools that
Yeah.
like Paint, Notepad, I would say too. I guess tabs and File Explorer, and also the other big thing that, even though I don't use the tabs, I know a lot of people probably like them. But the other big thing I've been happy to see them address and continue to innovate on, and it's funny to say this, is the snipping tool. I use
Yes.
snipping all the time, like or recording, being able to now record video clips with it is amazing. Like being able to do that, like these little tools in Windows is what people, when you're really using a PC, is what you're going to be using. To see those things kind of advance, and like I imagine snipping tool. Like, are they putting OCR on that? Did we talk about that? Or are they getting like so it can fill out the text?
I've mentioned it, but yeah, we are hearing that OCR stuff is coming to Snipping Tool, which is another maybe AI, maybe not AI, depending on how you look at it, feature that will allow you to view text, or allow the app to at least view text and allow you to copy it to your clipboard and paste it elsewhere and stuff.
Yeah, so that's cool. The one thing I would like to see MS Paint get though, and I know this is going to cause maybe confusion because of OneNote, but like actual pen support.
What does it have now? Can't you use pen?
I don't think you can use a pen in it.
I think you can. I've definitely I've done it before.
Really?
I don't
Okay,
think
maybe I'm wrong.
I don't think it has pressure sensitivity. I could even be wrong about that.
Right.
But you can definitely use a Surface Pen to draw in Paint. You can for sure, because I've done it.
Okay.
But I don't remember if it has pressure sensitivity and stuff. But yeah, I would like to see it. And maybe we're asking too much of a basic image editor, but I want layers. I want to be able to have layers in Paint, because 3D Paint, I think, of course it did. It's 3D. It had 3D Paint had layers. But Classic Paint currently doesn't. I'd love to see layers in there. So, and better handling of transparent files. It's the one thing Paint can't do right now, is to handle PNGs. So if you have like a transparent file with like a checkered background for the transparency,
You go to save it,
it
tells you.
Yeah, it will lose transparency. That would be nice to see in Paint
Agree.
as well.
Agree there too. That would be cool. Yeah, that seems like something that should be doable too, because that is a weird omission.
Yeah.
Because then I have to go open up like Photoshop Elements.
It's funny. Like this story about WordPad did quite well on the site. I think it got quite a bit of traffic when we published it. And it's these kind of stories always do. And I don't think it's necessarily because people use these every day and are sad that it's going, or worrying that it's going away, because what are they going to use now if it's going away, right? I don't think it's that. I think it's nostalgia stuff. It's nostalgia, isn't it? People get sad when something that's been in their lives all for years, 20, 25 years since Windows 95, for that long, is suddenly going away. It's a sign of the times changing, and I think people get quite emotional about that. And so when they hear, oh, that app WordPad, which I played with as a kid, is being removed from Windows now, they get a little bit sad. And so people click in and they're like, oh, that's sad. It's not because they use it every day. It's because the times are changing and they're getting older. That's what it is.
You lose. It's tough losing parents, friends, loved ones, animals, and WordPad. It's all up there in the same same level. I mean, it's perfectly understandable.
And also as well, the death of it, I guess, means the death of the file format. It air quotes popularized .rtf, which was the rich text format file, I believe. That is no longer going to be a thing. Well, I mean, it'll still be around, but I don't know if Windows will have a default way of viewing those files once WordPad is removed. So there you are.
Mm-hmm. Nice. All right. I guess you got to do your ad read, right?
Yes, let me do the ad read. Let me put it up here. So, as always, Indeed is sponsoring this episode of the Windows Central podcast. When it comes to hiring, don't wait for the great talent to find you. Find them first with Indeed. When you're hiring, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can find, attract, and interview and hire all in one place. Indeed, instead of spending hours on multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills, Indeed is a powerful hiring platform that can help you do it all. They streamline hiring with powerful tools that find you match candidates, and with Instant Match, over 80% of employers get quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job, according to Indeed data. One of the things we think is pretty awesome is that in candidates you invite are 3 times more likely to apply to your job than candidates who see it only in search, according to Indeed's data. So yes, even better, Indeed's the only job site where you only pay for applications that meet your must-have requirements. Indeed is an unbelievably powerful hiring platform, delivering 4 times more hires than all other job sites combined, according to Talent Nest. Join 1 in 3 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. So start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/WCP. That offer is good for a limited time only. That's Indeed.com/WCP to claim a $75 credit. Indeed.com/WCP. And support the show by saying you heard about it on this podcast. Indeed.com/WCP. Thank you, Indeed, for sponsoring. And now we should move on to our next topic, which I don't remember. Oh, is it the duo? It is. I think it might be the duo. The duo is alive, everybody. Mike.
So I'll set this up. Actually, I'm just going to start off and say Shane Craig. I only saw this because of his video. He does really good stuff on YouTube, so go check him out. Scary If Literal, I believe, is his tag name, but Shane is his first name. And he's been a big fan of Duo from the beginning with all of us, and did a lot of content on it. But like most humans, he has moved on from the Duo. He's actually using the Pixel Fold now, like Zach, although I believe he also has the Pixel Fold, I should say, but he also has the Fold 5. So he caught this, and I missed it. I'm not on social media as much these days. I don't know why. I just kind of burnt out from it. But apparently Panos Panay retweeted a kind of like, I don't know what you would call it, a little how-to explainer video that Microsoft published. And it was kind of highlighting Microsoft Launcher's new feature with being chat built into it, something I've been saying, come on, guys, where is this thing? And they finally did deliver it. And so it's just a video kind of explaining it, showing it how it works. And they did it on a Surface Duo too, I think it was. And so then the story was interesting because people, of course, started running away. They're like, wait, there's a November event coming, or a September event coming up with Surface. And like now they're talking about the Duo again. Because it's weird. Microsoft has not mentioned or shown the Duo for like a very long time. I think it was when the OS update came out for, what was it, Android 11? I think that was the last time they really kind of did any kind of push with it. So people were speculating, oh my God, maybe they're going to talk about Surface Duo 3 in September. And we've been adamant about that, or I should say Zach has, that no, that's not going to be the case. And so Shane did a pretty good video kind of breaking it down. And he highlighted a lot of interesting things, including how the lead, I don't know if he was the lead engineer or whoever built this feature into Teams, was doing the walkthrough. Shane was like, you could tell this is not his phone because there's no SIM in it.
Right.
And he was also pointing out how it looked like to be a prototype. And he says probably because, there are no retail units available, so they can't even get one if they wanted to. So it was probably a prototype that they had in the lab somewhere. And it was just pointing out how, like, the guy showing it off probably doesn't use his own Duo, which was, I thought, pretty hilarious. Oh, Shane's in our chat, actually. Yeah, Shane, it was a good video because there's a lot of stuff I missed when I first caught it. But yeah, so the idea is like, and Shane he raised a really good question. It's like, well, all right, they're using Surface Duo 2 to highlight this Microsoft Launcher feature, but what else would they have done? Like and he used it was a great point. Like if they used the Galaxy S23 Ultra, everybody would have been like, see, even Microsoft says Surface Duo is dead. Now, we all know Duo is kind of dead as is, in the current form factor, and we don't know exactly what their long-term plans are besides fiddling around with foldables. But, being that they used Duo, it's like, well, they're still keeping the idea alive somehow. But if they use the S23 Ultra or any other Android phone, it would have been like everybody would have read into that as being like, see, even Microsoft doesn't acknowledge it exists anymore. They're trying to bury it. And I mean, it's 100% accurate, so they had to use it because that's their Android device. Like
Yeah.
they're going to show Android stuff on their Android phone, even though that phone is 2 years old and no one uses it anymore. And you couldn't even buy it if you wanted to, unless you want to pay, huge prices on eBay. So, and then he also sort of looked at Panos Panay's Instagram account and noticed some of the photos were taken with the Duo, because you could see it in the reflections and stuff like that. And I think that's true, in the sense that he was using that for the Instagram photos. The question is, does Panos Panay use the Surface Duo too? He does not.
He does not.
He does not.
Absolutely not. No.
he does not. Which, I mean, it's not like it's not a flaw with him, obviously. I think like most people, if you're into tech, you're going to kind of go where the latest tech is. I don't know what he's using currently, but I've seen what we've all seen what phone
it's an iPhone, I'm pretty sure. So not to burst anyone's bubble, but he's an American. He lives in Seattle. He's using an iPhone.
And he's got a big family.
And he's got a big family, absolutely.
He's Greek. He has a big family he's very proud of, and he's very much a family guy. And so I imagine having FaceTime is an important thing. That doesn't mean he's disingenuous when he talks about the Duo at all, because that was his idea. It was like his thing that he really wanted to deliver. I think he believes in it. I think what he wants is to build the phone he wants, whether it's Android or if it was a Windows Phone version or if it's an iPhone, like he wants to build his own device kind of that goes where he thinks the industry should go. And you may ask yourself, like, well, he's in charge of all of the hardware. He's in charge of all this stuff. Like, why can't he just make it happen? And it's like, well, one, sometimes it's harder than you think. Yeah. I've said endlessly on this podcast about how like LG is no longer making smartphones, and LG was there from the beginning. Like they had a long pedigree in this stuff, and they pulled out because they couldn't hack it. HTC pulled out because they couldn't hack it, although they technically have a phone laying around now. Razer tried, they couldn't do it either. OnePlus had some early success, and now they're kind of like, each release is a little bit different. Google, as neat as the Pixel series is not a top seller device. It's gotten a little bit better. The 6 and 7, I will say, it's trending upwards, and 8, I think, will continue that. But it's, Samsung still crushes them in market share. So it's a hard thing to do even when you're in charge. And even though when you're in charge, you can't just be like, all right, I'm going to allocate $1 billion to making the smartphone of our dreams. He doesn't have that kind of, it's not like he has access to all the money at Microsoft, and he still has to come up with a game plan and bring it to the board and be like, this is how we're going to do stuff.
I'd also say he's probably spread pretty thin these days, now being in charge of not only Surface and hardware, but Windows and partnership and his partners as well. It's not just Windows. He has to work with third-party OEMs like Dell and HP. It's not a simple job. So he's probably spread pretty thin, and so he doesn't have as much time to kickstart a project like the Duo, which, to be fair, was very much was an underdog kind of idea to begin with. Obviously it started off as a Windows thing that never took off, and then they turned it into an Android device, which was unprecedented. But they did it. They did it kind of poorly, no offense, but it launched with lots of bugs and stuff. It got to a point where it was in a good place in the end for the Duo 2 and whatnot, but at that point it was too late. And at that point, Panos had moved on from being just the Surface guy to being the Surface and Windows guy, and so he was now focused on Windows 11. And throughout that entire period, he was basically over there doing Windows stuff. And so the Duo part of the team, I guess, got sort of left behind a little bit, maybe. And then the Android team, obviously, I believe Panos is even in charge of the Android stuff now, but they're spread thin too, of doing Teams rooms on Android and all the Android apps and stuff. There just isn't enough. There's just not enough resources or people at Microsoft to be working on Android for a phone like the Surface Duo. It's just too unique. It needs to be more standardized. And for the phone stuff, Microsoft can do that, because obviously with the PC side is Windows. It's their platform. That's Surface for Windows is a place for Microsoft to push the boat out in regards to form factors. Microsoft doesn't need to do that with the phones, because they run Android. It's not benefiting Microsoft to build a unique form factor there. Just build the form factor people want. And I think that's what we're going to see on the Android side in the future. We won't see it this year. We may see it at the end of next year if we're lucky. But I'm not holding my breath for that. I think 2025 is more likely. They will definitely circle back to the phones. They definitely will. That's not the end. The only problem are the optics around doing the Duo 1, Duo 2, and then essentially abandoning them and then waiting a bit, which is kind of what they did with Windows Phone, moving into the Duo. It didn't look great, but I think people are like, they wouldn't do that again, would they? And it turns out they will. They absolutely will. But time is a healer. I think enough time will pass at some point where people won't be bothered when they finally come out with a foldable phone of some kind.
Yeah, I mean, this is, the ongoing problem with Microsoft, which is they try hardware, but they're not a hardware company.
Yeah.
And they're doing a lot, right? Microsoft is, Windows is important, but it's one of many things that they're doing now. And AI is really taking precedence. And, the argument that they could enter the phone market now and really dominate it in any way. By dominating, I mean, you're just getting 10% is like so far-fetched because things are so entrenched. Now, there could still be a paradigm shift in mobile technology, but, there's nothing besides the form factor change.
Not even Google can build market share, and they make Android. Pixel is a tiny percentage of the market.
Right. Yeah, and so if Microsoft really wanted to just put $10 billion into a skunkwork projects to build a next generation smartphone and the operating system around it and somehow support apps and make it unbelievable. They could do that, but the company doesn't have the will to do that. And so, and I'm not saying they're even wrong for that,
Yeah.
But,
and also I would imagine maybe from a career perspective, now that Panos is in charge of so much, there's a lot more weight on his shoulders to be successful. Whereas, so he can't be messing around with a product that's just going to probably flop. You
can't be a maverick. You can't be
the
maverick anymore when you're in charge of that much capital at a company. It's true. So we'll see what happens. They're still experimenting with foldables. We just covered, a couple weeks ago, their new patent and stuff like that. So whether we'll see another Android phone from them remains to be seen, but I don't know. We'll check it out. Next story, Apple's rumored low-cost MacBook. I actually haven't been able to read this story yet. Zach, you want to walk us through it?
So Apple is rumored, and to be fair, this isn't the first time they've been rumored to be doing something like this, but this rumor seems to have some legs. It's from Digitimes, which, to my knowledge, has a rocky track record. But they've, I think, been more right than wrong in the past, so we'll go along with it. But they are reporting that Apple is planning to ship a lower-cost MacBook in 2024. And that's obviously big news for the PC space, because I think a lot of us look at the Mac and believe that one of the reasons why it hasn't taken over and dominated the PC space is because it's quite costly and it's priced way out of most people's bracket. The cheapest MacBook Air you can buy right now, I think, is $900 or $1,000, new from Apple, that is. Of course, you get them on discount on sale from retailers, but if we're looking at RRP, $1,000, let's say, for the MacBook Air, that's quite expensive for a lot of people. Most people are, I think, the bulk of laptops are sold between the $500 and $700 range, I want to say. I don't have the statistics on that to refer to, but I'm pretty sure it's around there. It's definitely not $1,000. That's very much high-end stuff. So the reason why Mac has never been so popular is because they price themselves out the market, and it's only for this ultra high-end, sort of very premium, for rich people kind of product line. But this report reckons that they're going to make perhaps a $600 MacBook of some kind, and that will be made of cheaper materials. Maybe it'll be polycarbonate in some areas, similar to like the Surface Laptop Go. Maybe it'll be metal on the top and polycarbonate on the bottom, stuff like that. But it will be with Apple's latest and greatest Apple processor, so the M2 or the M3 by the time this laptop rolls out, with its excellent energy efficiency and incredible power for the price. That's a killer laptop. That's insane. And at $600, it's like bang in the middle of the sweet spot where most people have their price bracket. If you're in Best Buy and you're looking at a $600 Windows PC and a $600 MacBook brand new, I mean, what are you picking? You're picking the MacBook. Like, there's no world where you don't, unless you absolutely rely on a Windows app that isn't on Mac.
Or you really want a 2-in-1 type device.
Yeah. If you want 5G or something, but to be fair, most people probably just want a laptop. That's the thing, and those people, suddenly the choice is, I'll just get the MacBook then. And so that, I think, could be a big threat to the PC space and Chromebooks. The report was like, yeah, Apple want to go after Chromebooks as well. But I think really this is a Windows PC play. This will knock out the big sort of mass markets section of the PC space, which is just plastic Intel laptops more or less. And I think that's worrying. I think this could be, if Apple does this could be a big turn of a moment where PC begins losing market share to the Mac for real. Because I know there's been discussions about that for years and years. But if you actually look at Mac market share, it's always hovered around 10, 12%. It's never really gone further than that. It's never really dropped from there. So it's never really been eating into PC market share. Do you think that could change with this cheaper MacBook, Dan?
Yes and no. I agree for, I think, general consumers. Some of this stuff again is lock-in, right? It's the same reason that people don't switch browsers, even though you can argue the other browser is way better. People just know what they know. They have certain apps that they like. So those people will be harder to get to switch. But if this laptop is, significantly better looking and better, I will argue that, especially HP, I think, has been making some really good, more affordable laptops. Where the story will get interesting, though, is I keep mentioning that Qualcomm and Intel both have interesting processors coming out next year as well. And I don't know in terms of pricing, the Intel will probably, this is where Intel is going to have, I think, leverage over Qualcomm. Because we know that Orion is supposed to be more of a top tier processor, meaning we won't find it necessarily in, $800 or $600 laptops. Not that they can't scale that architecture down. They probably can, and they probably may. They also could probably definitely scale it up. This is how you do any kind of platform that's new. Intel, however, like they always do, they don't launch a new processor and be like, Core i9s only, right? They're like, no, they got the now what they're calling 9, Core 7, Core 3, and they do have that, and then you also have the N200. So, wow, a huge thunderstorm outside, by the way. Wow. So if I lose power,
yeah.
But I think Intel's new architecture may be better placed to compete against Apple in terms of lower power usage, but while still delivering really good performance, unlike the past. And considering how PC makers are making, I would say, much more premium PCs these days, even at the lower end. I'm a huge fan of, I've always said this, the HP Envy series. Spectre, though, is HP's premium line, and they're great. I love the Spectres, but I kind of also just really like the straightforward designs of the Envy, and Envy is more mid-tier. They also have Pavilion, which is a little bit lower, but even the Pavilions are getting nice. So I don't think it's a slam dunk. It's only a slam dunk if Intel and Qualcomm, and I guess AMD, if you want to throw them in there too, drop the ball. But there's no evidence that's going to happen. I think Apple's advantage we're talking about is going to start to diminish with these new processors.
Do you not think the brand recognition alone would be enough to just compete there?
It could be in the US, but don't forget, also a lot of people who buy these lower cost laptops, a lot of the market is schools.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Where they're going to have these things. That's a huge chunk of that market, that buys these devices. And there's still issues with deploying Apple in schools. Their stuff has gotten better, but a lot of IT departments don't like supporting them.
Yeah. Because I look at what Apple did with the iPad and the tablet space. Apple basically has an iPad at every price bracket, and I think that's one of the reasons why they are so popular as tablets. And when people think of a tablet, they think of iPad, because if you're going to buy a tablet, there's no way you're not buying an iPad, right? If Apple were to do that with laptops, I think they could. I think honestly, I don't see what would be stopping them if they wanted to do a $600 laptop, a $900 laptop, maybe I don't think they'd do a $400 laptop, but $600 for the starting price. I think I don't know. I think that's worrying news.
It'll be interesting to shake up the market, but like I said, there's a lot of other moving parts here in the PC industry that I don't think. If this came out 2 years ago, it would be a way different story. Absolutely. Because it's true, Intel and Qualcomm and AMD don't have anything to compete in terms of performance and battery efficiency where Apple is. But I'm confident that's going to change in 2024. And I saw one accidentally next gen laptop from a company that was the testing, and it looks really, really nice. Like it's super thin and just felt like it's a more premium one, right? So, but you can tell these new processors are going to allow these devices to be even thinner. Thermals are going to be way better. There's a lot of stuff going on in thermal technology right now. The big thing, and I forgot the name of it, is the passive venting system that was invented, where it doesn't actually use fans. It has this little membrane in there that can draw in air and push it through without using any power. If you think about how important that is, one, you're not going to get fan noise. Two, you're not going to draw electricity. But three, you're still getting the thermal compensation that you need. That's going to be a game changer.
Wow, that's real thundery out there.
Dude, I'm using NVIDIA Broadcast.
We can hear all of it.
My poor dog is right by my legs. I think she's very concerned.
Yeah. Well, real quick, while the thunder goes on, I do want to say, I think what this really will do, if Apple does do this, is it will really heat up the competition in the PC space at least, because obviously OEMs will feel like they need to compete and will stop putting out crap at $600. They'll start putting out some good stuff to compete with the MacBook, and so ultimately, I think everybody wins. But it will be obviously down to the buyer to choose if they want to stick with Windows or go with Mac OS, because that's ultimately what it comes down to. You know, obviously in the tech enthusiast space, the general tech enthusiast space, I think people prefer Mac, and those of us who prefer Windows are in the minority there. But I think generally, I mean, if you look at the numbers, market share statistics prove that most people use Windows. Do they prefer Windows? I don't know if that's entirely accurate, but they certainly use it. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe people will just stick to what they know, even at $600. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what Apple ends up doing. But yeah, I think if they do this, I'm hoping Microsoft and HP and Dell have an answer at $600, because I don't think the Surface Laptop Go is a good alternative to a MacBook at $600. To be honest, they need to do better than this to compete. If I'm honest.
Yeah, all they gotta do is the better processor. To be honest, the better processor, a better battery life,
and
they can
screen.
Do that while still delivering a. Yeah, right, too. But it's still deliver. Don't forget though. I mean, Apple for years had just full HD on the.
No, you're right.
MacBook
Apple have learned their lesson. They're Retina everything now for Mac.
Anyway, let's go on. Let's quickly go through review roundups. Let's see if I actually. Oh, I don't have that open. So the big review that just went up on the site is going to be the Razer Blade 14 2023 Mercury Edition. This is a cool laptop. This is a great one for people who want hardcore gaming, but a smaller form factor. And what's interesting is this is powered by AMD Ryzen 9 7940HS. So this is one of their top tier AMD processors. NVIDIA GeForce RTX 4070 Laptop Edition. 32 gigs of RAM, 1 terabyte SSD, and it's a 14-inch 240 hertz QHD plus display. This is a really nice package. It weighs 4 pounds or 1.84 kilograms, so it's not light, but it does have an all metal chassis that, they're calling Mercury. It's like a white silver kind of thing. But it's a pretty solid laptop. You got a lot of nice ports on it and all that. And so overall, it got a very good rating from us. It got 4.5 out of 5 stars. You should buy this if you need a legitimately portable gaming laptop. You want to play the best AAA games, and you moonlight as a content creator, right? Content creators can definitely use this kind of power in a smaller form factor. I will say Razer still sells the Blade 15 with a 16:9 display, the more classic one. This is 16:10, which looks better in my opinion. They also have now the newer Blade 16, and they also have the Blade 18. So you have different sizes there. But yeah, it's a very deep dive interview that Ben Wilson did on this one. It looks great. So go check that out if you're interested. Oh yeah, I should mention the price. So it starts, I believe it starts at $2,800. So it is not a cheap laptop, but with all those specs in there I just mentioned. Oh, actually, sorry, you can get the our recommended configuration is 2,400. Still same Razer 9. It's a 4060 though with 16 gigs of RAM. But yeah, that is more ideal, I think, for a lot of people. So very cool there. In terms of other stuff, oh yeah, we also reviewed the Monoprice 35. This is a hell of a name. Monitor price 350GUW-QHD. I'll just describe it. It's Monoprice, who many of you may know make really good cables and accessories. They've been branching out into displays and audio, and we've been reviewing some of their displays recently, and they're good. They're just like their auxiliary products are affordable but still deliver cool stuff. So this is a 35-inch ultra wide curved display. So it's ideal for gaming, obviously, or anyone else that's doing anything. 35 inches, as I mentioned, 1800R, that's the curvature. It's a 3440 by 1440p resolution, which is really solid, and a 120 hertz refresh. So it's not like the 240s that are out there now. It has an 8 millisecond response time, VESA compatible, and it's 300 nits of brightness. But it's a straight up monitor. So what's the price? It's $400, although you can get it on sale, which it is right now, for $300. So it's like a third off the price. I would say for $400, I wouldn't get it. I would get something HP, as we mentioned in the review and the alternatives, is a better deal. For $300, though, it's a pretty competitive pricing at that point. It's going to be lower than what HP can do. You don't get a lot of frills, like it. I don't even know if it goes up and down. You don't get a lot of ports on it. There's obviously no webcam. It's going to be all plastic, right? So it's not going to be a fancy. There are no speakers. It's a straight, but this is good for people who I think are on a budget. But you also just know what you want. You just want a gaming monitor. It's 35 inches. That's curved. That's going to be really immersive with a good resolution and quality refresh rate. You don't care. You provide your own speakers, like I say most gamers do, or you're using premium headphones, which a lot do. Webcams. Listen, a lot of built-in webcams to displays are not that great. Exception being the Dell monitor I'm using, which has an amazing webcam. I'm using it right now. So they're going to provide you'll provide your own webcam, especially if you're doing streaming. So I think it was a really cool option. And Monoprice does have a 1-year warranty on it. As well as you can return it within 30 days, and they also have a Pixel Perfect warranty. So if any pixels go down on it, they'll trade it out for you. So all kind of cool stuff. So we got that up there on the weekend. We do have another review coming up, I think, on Sunday. I think it's the Acer Swift X16, which is a really good one. That's another AMD laptop. So we can check that out as well. So that does it for the review roundups, and I think we're just about done. We can do Thing of the Week. Zach, if you have one. Zach, are you still here?
Sorry, I was on mute. So yeah, this week I've been watching Ahsoka, which is currently airing on Disney Plus.
Sure.
It's okay. It gets off a little bit slow. It's very much a show you will enjoy more if you watched all of the other stuff Ahsoka's been in, like the kids TV show stuff,
sure.
Which I did not watch those. So I there's some references to things that I think happened in those shows that I'm just not privy to. And there's relationships between characters that I'm just not fond of because I didn't watch those shows. But if you come in with that mindset and you understand that, then I think you're going to enjoy it. The last episode that just ended, episode 4, won't spoil the ending, but it's getting good. And episode 5 is apparently being screened in some select cinemas next week. So if you want to get tickets for that, go ahead. And that should tell you everything you need to know about what's sort of happening in that show. There's a lot of big deal Star Wars stuff happening, I think, in the next episode. So, yeah, recommend it,
I think, and I haven't seen it, but I've seen stuff online hoping that the main villain, Mardok or Marok, whatever his name is.
I don't remember,
yeah, he's got the double-edged lightsaber kind of thing. Everybody's hoping that's Darth Vader's apprentice from The Force Unleashed.
Oh, Starkiller? That's his name.
Yeah.
That would be cool, but they decanonized The Force Unleashed, I think. Or maybe they were going to recanonize it. They'll definitely have to decanonize the second Force Unleashed, because the second Force Unleashed totally breaks canon in Star Wars, because they go back and kill Han Solo and stuff in that game.
Yeah, I didn't even finish that one. I did finish the first. I love the first game. In fact, I was looking to buy it again, but it's not compatible with Steam Deck, so I can't use it on my handheld. So I'd have to replay it on either Xbox or the desktop PC, which I may still do anyway, because was there anything there was nothing more fun than just crushing TIE fighters with your force
No,
power.
yeah, no, that was great. And the physics engine in that game is also amazing with the force and being able to throw bodies and stuff. That was, you're right, fantastic game. I would love to see
I just
Star
love
Killer.
throwing stormtroopers around and picking them on the wall.
Yeah.
Oh, it was just so cathartic. I was just like, so I might even just have to go buy that this weekend because you can buy it on Steam for pretty cheap. I'm sure. I wonder if it's on Xbox, if it's on Game Pass. Speaking of Game Pass, actually, a new build came out for Windows 11 during this podcast for, I believe, the dev channel. Oh, here it is. Windows 11 Insider Preview build 23541 dev channel. Yeah. So that's out now. One cool thing that's in it is the Microsoft Store update. Windows Insiders and all channels running version 20, I won't mention it. The Microsoft Store and higher will see the following improvement rolling out. New Game Pass page. Explore and subscribe to PC Game Pass or Game Pass Ultimate through our new dedicated page. With the new experience, you can learn about Game Pass benefits such as exclusive games, deals, free perks, EA Play, and more. It's also easier to discover, jump in, and play your next favorite game, including day one games, new games on Game Pass, Bethesda games, and more. So this is really kind of cool because there's been a disconnect for a couple of years now between the Microsoft Store and like the Xbox app, which like you would see Game Pass maybe in the store, but then you would click in and it would hand you off to the Xbox app. And I always thought that was really strange. And I believe now they're getting rid of one of the Xbox apps because, again, there was redundancy there. But putting this into the store just makes much more sense. One, it will help drive up traffic for the store, combined with the AI stuff. I think is really interesting. But it just makes a little bit more sense. It's a lot easier because, yeah, I'm more likely to go to the store personally and look at gaming there and be able to click and download games that way than I am going to be, doing the Xbox app. A lot of times I'm just browsing movies and TV as well. So, the store is really nice. I gotta give them credit. The new store design is great.
It's gorgeous. So, yeah, I really do like the Microsoft Store app on Windows 11.
Yeah. As far as my thing of the week, is there anything that was cool that came in? Well, I can tell you the thing of the week next week. Well, I can't tell you what it is, but it's gonna be a cool announcement. So that'll be fun. But for this week, I started watching Pluto TV. Pluto TV is like a free TV service here that's available on streaming services and stuff. And they have like all these dedicated movie channels and by genre. And two movies came on. One was called Ticks, which was it came out in 2004 or something like that. It's a really old movie, but it's just if you like really kind of B cheesy monster movies, like this one's about giant ticks. It's a blast. Also has a pretty amazing cast in it. A lot of them before they were famous. Actually, it was the Alfonso, and I forgot his last name, from The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is in it, and Seth Green is in it. Like a lot of it's just like wow. But that was a fun movie. Another one though that kind of surprised me, I totally missed. Came out, I think it was 2014 maybe. It was called The Ruins, and this was based on a best-selling book. This is about kids, teenagers or something like that. They're a little bit older actually, in their 20s. They go down to Mexico and they go to this like Mayan area and they find a pyramid and all that, and they go up to it, and turns out there are killer plants there that are killer carnivorous plants, and the locals know about it and they don't want to spread, so they don't allow the people to escape from it. And so it's just the story of how they're dealing with it, and it's got some pretty gross special effects in it. Like it was fun. It was a much better movie than I expected it to be, and it's actually kind of fun. So there's that. Other than that, HBO How To with John Wilson, new season started. I think I mentioned that. John Wilson is a really creative guy who just takes a video camera around New York City with him and just films random stuff that's happening that's really kind of weird and interesting. And then he takes all that footage, and even though it's all random, he finds a theme he wants to work on. Like one he did was finding bathrooms in New York City, and he just turns it into a whole like half hour of talking about bathrooms. I know it sounds weird, but it's like he's very philosophical, and it's a great analysis of kind of human behavior and just how weird people could be. And just if you never really lived in New York City, I don't think this will sell you on it. it's on its third season. It's really funny. It's very kind of philosophical. And what's nice about it is every time you get to the end of the episode, you actually feel like kind of happy and at peace because he does really funny narration. Um, but it's not a show that's going to make you feel bad, which it actually makes you feel a little bit better about humanity and everything, which I think a lot of people need. There's just a lot of dark stuff out there these days, and I get it. Netflix and all these streaming services have all really dark and gritty shows. But this one's a good uplifting one. They're short episodes, and it's really just kind of interesting stuff done by a very, very creative film guy that I just think is really fascinating. So that's it. Other than that, we'll do Q&A now with the audience. If you're around and you have questions, you can start putting those into the chat. Other than that, you can ping us on Twitter. I'm at Daniel_Rubino, Rubino. I'm also that on Threads and Instagram and pretty much everything else. You can follow Zach at ZACBOWDEN, also on Threads, which he just remembered exists, but he's also on Twitter, so you can ask us questions there, give us a follow. You can also watch us record this every Friday. It is now 1 p.m. Eastern time on our YouTube channel, so just go to Windows Central. You can also watch old episodes there. But as always, thanks for tuning in, and definitely tune in next week because there's some interesting stuff that'll be announced. Actually, this whole month is going to be really interesting for stuff, so make sure you turn into those episodes. Other than that, thanks for listening. We'll talk to you later. Take care, everyone.
There we are. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We will hang around for a few minutes and do our best to answer them. And if there are no questions, we're going to go because it's Friday.
Did you see? We should talk about this. Have you watched that show Red Rose?
I have not.
It's on Netflix. It's I would say it's more geared towards, what do they call it? Young YT crowd. Was that?
I don't know.
It basically teenagers. It's more aimed at teenagers.
Okay.
Young adult. I think it's called. They call it young adult. It's more of that, but it's picked up kind of a reputation, and a lot of people like it. It's kind of about a killer phone app. I mean, the app itself doesn't kill you, but there are people behind it that do. So it's kind of like a weird combo of The Ring and technology and all this kind of stuff. It's fine. I half watch it. But what's funny in it is the app has a certain chime to it, and it's very like you hear it once, and it's a kind of a nice chime. And so I've downloaded it and put it onto my phone. And so when my SO messages me, it always plays that. And if you watch the show, it's actually pretty funny what that means. But yeah, Red Rose, maybe something people could watch.
Zach, what do you think of Windows 12's touch capabilities compared to Windows 11? Windows 11 is absolutely horrible on an 11-inch screen like the Go, and the upcoming Pro 10 11-inch. I would stop saying Pro 10 11-inch. I don't know if it would be the Pro 10 or Pro 11. I just know that there's an 11-inch Pro that they're planning. I don't know if it's for the next gen or the gen after. But yes, I can't really talk about what I've heard in regards to specifics around the next version of Windows stuff, because I think it's fair to say there's a lot of moving parts, and until I have a concrete idea as to what will and won't be shipping, excuse me, I'm so ill. I don't want to get people's hopes up too much. So I will say that they are focused on touch. Touch is a key area where they know they're sort of behind with Windows 11, and they want to improve that. So yes, there are touch improvements in the works. Goodness me. There we go. Do you think I can run Starfield on my Windows DTK device?
DK what?
Are you talking about the Project Volterra thing? If you are, then no. It will not run on there.
I mean, you can run it. Yeah, you can. Cloud streaming.
Cloud streaming, it's true, yeah. Are you guys looking for reader submissions? Not particularly, I don't think so. When do you think we will see how Windows 12 looks like? Probably in June 2024. Don't quote me on that. I'm just saying Windows 11 was announced in June 2021, and then it shipped in October 2021. We will probably see a similar thing happen with Windows V Next. Are you expecting any surprises on the 21st of September? No. In fact, I just today put live my expectations for the event, and I even mentioned there's a Windows 12 segment, and in it I say, yeah, probably not. For the Windows 12 stuff, we probably won't be hearing about that. They might tease that there's some more stuff to come in regards to AI, which would be hinting at Windows 12, but I don't think they're going to outright be like, hey, yeah, Windows 12 is coming next year. I could be wrong about that, but none of my sources seem to think that they're in a position to announce the next version of Windows just yet. Will any version of Core PC be capable of gaming? I think so, but I don't think it... There's no need for it, because obviously legacy Windows is still a thing, and that's not going to go away. So I don't know, honestly. From a technical perspective, yes, it is possible for a Core PC edition to be able to run games, ideally with no problems. Do you think a new Surface Pen would be announced alongside the new Surface Pro? Again, there's no Surface Pro coming this year. The info I have on the next Surface Pro is very early at this point. I'm not expecting to see the Surface Pro until at least spring 2024. If it has a new pen, I would be surprised. Actually, I don't know. There might be a new pen, if I'm remembering rightly. I don't know about anything about it, but yes, perhaps there might be an updated Surface Pen. Oh yeah, let me get that. Upcoming Surface Laptop Studio will be a great upgrade. My only worry is that the battery life with the 13th H series chips is a real power hungry, even in balanced settings and normal use. 12th gen is more efficient. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. We will have to wait and see. Oh yeah, we should have talked about. Well, we'll talk about it next week. Again, what we're expecting from the hardware, because I've added some more details in regards to ports now. For those of you listening, I guess we can talk about it real quick here. Micro SD card reader and a USB-A port will be the additions to the Surface Laptop Studio's port selection. So you'll have two Thunderbolt 4 USB-C ports, a USB-A port, and a micro SD card port, as well as Surface Connect and a 3.5mm headphone jack. Surface Connect is not going away, at least not this generation. I know lots of people had concerns about that, but to my knowledge, it's sticking around for at least one more year. And they're also planning to drop the 4GB RAM models from every SKU, which does unfortunately mean that starting prices will be going up. The next Surface Go probably won't start at $499 or $399, and the next Surface Laptop Go will not start at $599. They will start at, well, higher. $100, $150, maybe more. And that will get you 8 gigs of RAM out of the gate. Same story for the Laptop Studio 2. There will not be an Intel Core i5 model. They're going straight for the Intel Core i7 with more storage as well. So that will be at least a few $100 more expensive than the entry-level Laptop Studio 1. So be prepared to pay a premium. But for that premium, you do get better specs, ideally. So it's not the end of the world. Every reviewer has always said skip the entry-level model anyway. So perhaps this year will be the first year where people say, actually, the entry-level model is pretty good. Did you laugh? What were you laughing at?
I just forgot these existed. Should start using them more often. Someone's asking, do I still have my turtles, or want to talk about my fancy watches? No, the turtles were long gone. That's been years. I only see them now in my OneDrive on this day posts where it reminds me of photos I have. And fancy watches? Nah, I don't feel like talking about watches. I haven't gotten a new one in a while. I got to sell off some stuff, get some new ones. So. Although I am wearing the Seiko Marine Master 300, which is a classic watch. And it weighs a brick. I love it. You can punch someone with it, knock him out.
You guys playing Starfield? I tried it out, but I'm just not. I just don't like Bethesda RPGs. I'm just not into them. So, if you've played a Bethesda RPG before and you liked it, you're gonna love Starfield. But if you're not a fan of Bethesda RPGs like myself, it's just a lot of the same. Really, it's just the settings different.
I have not tried it. I'm pretty sure I don't have the time to commit to that kind of game. I wish I did. I mean, it seems a lot of fun. It's been years since I've put hours into a game every day and like lived in a universe like that, but just the way my life. It's like if I didn't go to the gym every day, I could do that, but I'm not going to give up the gym to play video games. That'd be like the opposite of what's important to me. Zach, you're being asked about your Pixel Fold.
Zach, happy so far? The Pixel Fold? Question marks. Any concerns about battery life and heating? We talked about this a bit last week. I really love it overall. I think this is really great. I love the hardware. The sound it makes when you close it is just, it's just perfect. But yes, you're right. Battery life and heat is a bit of a thing on this device. Battery life is okay. I said on the podcast last week that I can get through a day with medium use relatively comfortably. But if you're a heavy user, you're definitely going to probably want to start charging this around 4 p.m. in the afternoon. The Tensor G2 chip in here is not very efficient and it does get warm. Particularly when you're watching videos or playing a game, especially when playing a game, it will get very warm. Luckily, I don't really play phone games, so I'm not too affected by that. And also, I don't really watch much video on my phone either, other than TikTok. TikTok's fine. But if I'm loading up a YouTube video and watching YouTube, the phone can get quite warm, But day-to-day usage, if I'm just using it to like scroll Twitter or messaging and taking photos, it's mostly fine. So no, it doesn't get too hot then.
Let's see. Meat Ninja is saying, Dan, you mentioned that Japanese-built Casio a while ago, and I ended up going to Japan and buying one in person. That's awesome. Yeah, Casios are, that's a hobby in of itself. I have many of the G-Shock squares now, all metal ones in different colors, including Japanese, what's it called? Tokyo Twilight, which is it's basically a purple watch, but it's a really cool looking purple watch. Yeah, just be careful getting into the Casios because you go down that rabbit hole and, if you subscribe to their newsletter, you're going every day, you get an email showing off like a new watch that they're releasing. But going to Japan and actually getting that stuff is neat because there are Japanese only market releases that they do there. You can still buy them because of the internet, but to get that experience, I think is really awesome. So congrats on that.
Zach, what have you heard of Clipchamp? Still feels like a third-party service and not a Microsoft product visually speaking. Are they even going to integrate it more tightly with Windows-like UI? I don't think so. I think it is operating as a standalone service. I mean, Clipchamp PR reach out to me all the time. They're like, "Hey, have you tried this?" Like, no, I haven't. I haven't tried that. I don't use Clipchamp. So somebody's there. Somebody's doing stuff for Clipchamp. I don't know. Maybe Clipchamp will get some AI stuff. I know there was some experimentation internally for that, but no, it's still around. I don't think it's going anywhere. It's just I think it's been deliberately left to sort of be its own service. So, yeah. All right, with that, it's probably time to head off. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be back next Friday. Follow us on Twitter. We'll keep you updated when we go live. And until then, we will see you next time. Bye-bye.